It is day 15 of Preptober, where we are plotting a book in 31 days, and today it is time to start world building. Are you surprised that it took this long for me to get to world building? Because I am, but usually when I plot a story, it's around this point where I actually do need to start world building. Of course, up until now, I've usually had a bunch of world building ideas, and you probably have too. It can be a style of government, it can be a place that you want the story to be set in, it can be a magic system, a political system, it can be a lot of different things. You will have made notes about it, I hope, and this is when we put these notes to use. So where do we start? We start with the things that directly impact your character and thus the story. If the story is very political, you focus on the political system. If religion or faith is important to the story, you focus on that. If your character belongs to a certain class of people, then you focus on the class system, or the species in your world, or whatever else is important. We will make a map soon, so even if your story involves a lot of traveling, this is not where you make a map. This is, however, where you figure out how people in general travel, and if there are roads, and who maintain the roads, what are the dangers of traveling, and things like that. But really, I can't tell you what to focus on with the world building, because it goes back to your characters, to your story, to your setting, and what are the most important world building elements that you need to know in order to write the story. So this might be a lot of work, or it might be no work at all. Probably not no work at all, even if you're doing contemporary. There's still some world building, but either way, it depends on the kind of story that you're writing. If it feels like it's too much work, then you need to prioritize, because just like with research, there is such a thing as too much world building. So at every step of the way, consider if this is something that you need to know that is important, or if it's just something that is really, really cool and you're very interested and you want to know it for your own sake. That is perfectly valid, of course, but do pace yourself. And if you're not like me and world building is a chore rather than a joy, then remember that you don't need intimate details unless they're important to the story. If your story has nothing to do with how the country is ruled, then it is valid to say that the country has a queen that rules it, and you don't need to go into lines of succession or figuring out the system with noble houses or international relations or anything like that. And even if how the country is ruled is very important, you don't need to come up with an entirely new way of ruling a country. You can just say that there are kings and queens and the oldest child inherits, and that's that. So either way, take it easy, world build only what you need, what impacts your characters, and thus what impacts the story.